Hello, Prithviraj, and welcome to Film Companion South. It's a genuine pleasure for at least a couple of reasons. I'm going to mention those reasons. One is we've always admired you as an actor. Your recent performance, I'm going to name one, though there are quite a few, but one that particularly was mind blowing, as they say, it was in Kude. I
Oh,
thought that was a very internalized character, and the way you kind of played it with was just completely mind blowing. I just love the way you did it. The second
thank you.
reason
Yes.
the second reason is
No,
is
please go ahead. I'm all open to hearing flattery. Please,
no, I'm not going to flatter it.
yeah.
Okay, so the second reason is a little more personal, and
Yes,
you
please.
may find it a little silly. Is that there was a time when I started writing reviews, and people used to say, "Oh my God, to read a Bharadwaj Rangan review, you need to have a dictionary in your hand." So you
I
know,
know where this is headed.
so, well, you're the one who said so when I discovered, I mean, initially it used to annoy me. So, but when I discovered that, okay, there is this guy out there, this Malayalam actor who's kind of having the same reputation, I just looked up to the skies literally and said, thank God I'm not alone. Just somebody who's kind of getting this. How do you know how narratives get built around people, right?
Yes,
Prithviraj? I don't know,
yes.
how do you treat this now? Do you just find it amusing and you brush it away, or does it still kind of get under your skin a bit?
No, no, I find it very funny. Just like you found reprieve in me, I'm thankful for Mr. Shashi Tharoor coming into active politics. So, ever since then, it's been more about him than me in Kerala. But yeah, I still get the occasional jibe and troll on my English Facebook or social media posts, which is okay. I find it funny. Some of them are really creative, actually. I mean, some serious talent out there.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Now you have Cold Case coming out on Amazon Prime, and
yeah,
you have played cop in quite a few movies and across languages. I'm going to name three, like Vargam, Tamil, Ravanan, and
yeah,
Aurangzeb. There's also some movie where you played a cop in Hindi. Now,
yeah.
when you've done, of course, each cop is different from other cops, but there is a archetype.
Yes.
So this is a question about your process when you get a character which says cop. Do you say, okay, I played all these cops earlier, I need to now try to find something in this cop to make him a little different? Or do you just say, for this particular story, I shouldn't try too much, I should just try to be myself? What was that? How was that?
I'm glad you put the question across so articulately because that is exactly what I was getting at. So I know I understand that I've done so many cop films. There are two types of cop films that I've done. Some which are very character driven, like a Vargam, or maybe like a Mumbai Police, or maybe something like a Memories, which where the film is pretty much the character. The plot is the character. Mumbai Police is about Anthony Moses. Then there is the other kind of films where they're all very plot driven, and you are just a character in a plot because of the way the plot is written, and because of the way the film travels, you realize that the writer has not lent the character any weightage or any complexity or layers. So in films like that, I'm a believer that as an actor you should be aware of the fact that you do not try too hard. You don't come in and then decide I'm going to design a body language for this guy and make him like this really special kind of a cop, and you take away focus from what the writer initially wanted. Cold Case is a film like that. Cold Case is a film where ACP Satyajit is only a character in a plot. Yes, of course, one path of the story you discover through what this character sees and what this character hears. But apart from that, he is a very efficient investigative cop. That's about it. The film is not about him. The film is not about Satyajit. The film is not about a backstory of Satyajit. So, like you said, take a step back. Make sure you don't take the scene away as an actor. So that is my thought process. I hope it works for Cold Case. Yeah,
Now, you mentioned Mumbai Police, and that was where I was going with the next question. You did this film in 2013.
yeah,
That's like a neon in today's, times, if you look at it.
yeah. Thank
But
you for making me feel antique. But yeah,
no, no, no. Like, let's not begin to talk about age, otherwise, we'll get into different zones. But what I'm saying is, even when you decided to play a cop in that movie, and I think by now it's safe to say the spoiler,
of
right?
course. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the cop, it turns out to be gay. Now, at that point, today Malayalam heroes, of course, do all kinds of roles. There's this freedom to do any kind of thing. But in 2013, which we're talking almost 10 years ago, when you decided to do that, uh, was there some kind of thought about, image that was playing through your mind? Because by that time you had worked very hard to kind of establish yourself as a bankable leading man. So, to kind of suddenly get the story and then say, I'm going to play this. Of course, in Hollywood, nobody would bat an eyelid, or maybe even in Hollywood, it might be a problem for certain actors to kind of play this character. What was your approach then regarding your image? Did you have that question going through your mind at all?
So I've always been a believer that, once as an actor, you attain some form of feasibility in terms of business in the industry. There are many ways you can use your stardom. I'm always a believer that I almost find it obligatory that when the opportunity comes my way, that I use my so-called stardom to, facilitate content that is slightly out of the way. Now, Mumbai Police to me was not risky because I play a homosexual character in it. It was risky because the character is set up against all existing statuettes of how a gay man is portrayed in cinema. It's easy for you to make fun of a gay man. It is very convenient for you to play this feminine archetypal guy. That is easy. You watch the film, from scene one, he is set up as this macho,
Right.
a full-on violent man that the person sitting in front of the screen is going to clap for. And then you take him to the heights of his masculinity, and then you reveal this is what he is. So I knew the risk was that shock value. But I also knew that the film will work based on that shock value. Full credit to the director and the writers. I mean, Roshan Andrews and Sanjay and Bobby thought of this. I still remember that phone call where, we knew pretty much. So I knew where the story had started and where the screenplay is heading towards. And then we were in that climax revelation portion. We were thinking of many, many different roads to go through. So I remember this very delicate phone call from Roshan saying, dude, you've always told me for good cinema you will do anything, right? I said, yeah, man, yeah, I mean, I'll do anything. You stay true to that, right? I mean, you'll do anything for good cinema. I said, what is it? I mean, come on, break the news. That so we are thinking, this might be, and I was like, wow, and that is kick-ass. Let's do it, So I was always very excited. I was so glad back then that our conviction was true, that people actually, when the film released, I still remember the first 2 days, the fans, were disappointed and all that. But then the film found footing. It took off. People started talking about it. And I'm so glad that, back then, at a time, like you rightly said, where this was so out of the norm, we managed to do something like that. It will always stay special for that reason.
Now, you are someone from the post Mammootty, Mohanlal generation, and Kude was your 100th film.
Yeah.
And in a span of like a little less than 20 years. If you were to use one word to describe this incredible journey, what would that be?
One word is gratifying, I guess. So I always say this. I had it very easy coming into the industry. I got my first film only because of my surname. But I only got my first film because of my surname.
Right.
From there on, I've been really lucky to have had the opportunity to work with some of the finest filmmakers and writers in Malayalam. I know sometimes, Dulquer tells me, dude, I mean, you came into the industry at a time that was really tough, because Malayalam industry was solely about the big M's, and and we were going through a bad phase creatively. We were going through a phase where we were beginning to think, okay, maybe what we should do is try and replicate what is happening in Tamil and Telugu, because they were finding so much success.
Right.
And we couldn't do that because we didn't have the means to do that back then. We couldn't do these large scale commercial pot boilers, and all our attempts at doing, most of our attempts at doing or replicating all those films fell flat. We all knew this, but we didn't know which other way to go about it. Till a new bunch of writers and filmmakers came around saying that, okay, maybe, we shouldn't go that way. We should just come back to our roots. And then things started changing. So those initial few years, in one way, it was quite easy for me because I was the only young actor who, on the horizon. So pretty much all those characters came to me. In another way, it was very tough for me because I was more often than not doing cinema that I just could not relate to. I knew these aesthetics don't excite me. I knew this is not, but then I'm an actor, I'm part of the industry. This is what the industry needs. This is what you do. But I'm glad I lived through that phase. There's so much I've learned from that phase. I keep telling my fellow actors that I belong to the last generation of actors who worked on films without a monitor. So it is more complex than what it seems to be when I say this, because right now you do a shot, you straight walk to the monitor and say, can I see a playback? And you see a playback and you sometimes you're happy, or else you say, can I just do that once more? I'd like to do it once again. And of course, the director lets you do it once again. I belong to the last generation of actors where you do a shot, and if the director says okay, then you wait till the dubbing studio to see what you have done. And by then it's too late. You really can't be asking, like, oh, can we go back and do that again? So I lived through that phase. I know that the last film shot on film in Malayalam is mine. I know that the first film shot on digital in Malayalam is mine. So I'm so glad that I got to live through that. And I'm so glad that I saw all that, experienced all that, and I'm still, in film years, young. So that is very exciting for me.
Yeah, I think that's the strange thing about you, because, even like, you are as young as, or I mean, like around the same age as most of your contemporary actors today, but somehow because you're very senior in a way, because because you've just been through this incredible journey before, and it started like way back, So so it's strange when you confront a Prithviraj, you're like, actually he's not that old, but when you look at his journey, it's like it just seems like he's been around forever. So that's kind of
yeah. I mean, I think that is one of the biggest aspects of my process of refinement as an actor, because I've been through the white pants and white shoes and dancing time of Malayalam cinema. So and I'm proud of it. I'm really proud of it. I'm proud that I've been part of those films, and I've found success as an actor in films like those. And then I'm here today when I'm working with all these new age filmmakers, thinking new, executing new. I'm directing films at this age. I'm glad that I could do that. So sometimes I go to Dulquer's house to have biryani. So his mom makes the best biryani in the world. So he always tells me, I land up in the house and then I just go in with his dad, Mammootty. And I'm sitting and talking with him all the time. I don't like, so he's like, you come here and, we don't get any time, because there's so much to speak to him, there's so much to speak. And I understand that Mammootty would have a lot more in common with me as an actor than with Dulquer. So I realize what you're saying. I know where you're coming from.
Now, did you have a strategy even in what you just described as the white pant, white shoes era? Like, for example, even some of the younger stars that came around that time, they were content to be like sidekicks in like the big M movies. Like, I mean, you've done like even in Pokhri Raja, you weren't that much of a side. I mean, you still had a solid role, but you kind of kept away from that and tried to keep doing your own thing. So was there a strategy even then when there was not much of an industry that was structured like that?
The honest answer is that I was just lucky. Why I say I was lucky is because of my physicality. I just happened to be this tall, relatively well-built guy who could pull off action.
You can say it. You're good looking. It's okay, So
I mean, I still find myself to be very clumsy. When I see my films, I'm like, I cringe. But I mean, back then, so what happened is I ended up being the second choice to most of the films that the big M's or Mr. Suresh Gopi would say no to. Most of the action films that they would say no to because they had better options, those would come to me. So I always had films as main lead to do. And they were not small films. They were relatively big films. And some of those films are made by some of the biggest directors in the industry. So I was very lucky that way because, I was the only guy who the filmmakers in the industry thought they could go to if the bigger stars said no for an action film or a big ticket, mainstream film. I was just lucky, I think. It is not that I had a strategy in place. Today when you say yes to a film, the be all end all of it is the script exciting, right? I mean, I remember back then it wasn't about the script. It was about the production company. It was about the director. Right. You get a script that you do not like, but if the production company is big and if the director is like a star director, the advice you got was, I mean, don't mind what's on paper, just go do it. And I have done films like that, many, and some of them have bombed. And to my surprise, some of them have really worked. So,
see, now the sensibilities, like you say, are very different, and they're probably more of your sensibilities. But back then, did you have to calibrate your acting along the way? Did you have to like say, I would have done this scene this way, but then I actually have to do it this way? Was there that mental tension?
So there was a point in my career where I reached a place where I could sort of begin to put my foot down, like say, no, listen, this is the way I want to do this film, and that's about it. If our visions align, then we do this or we do not. And that took me a few years. Of course, it did take me a few years to get to that point where I could be headlining a project. So I always say you mentioned Vargam. That film is very special to me because that was one of the first films where I thought, it was being made and executed. Everything was like, I like this. I believe in this. I trust this. I can relate to. It was one of the first films that got made that way. So before that, you're right. Before that, you do something and there are directors who have come to me and said, can you do it like Mohanlal? Or can you do it the way Mammootty would do it? I've had people come and tell me this. Later on, yeah, I mean, I reached a place where I could put my foot down and say, no, we are not doing that. We are doing something new. But then you land up on a film like Pokiri Raja, where everything is over the top, everything is over dramatized, and that is what the film is about. You understand what are you attempting.
Right.
I cannot fathom opinions where somebody says a Kumbalangi Nights is a better film than a Pokiri Raja. No, I mean they're just you just can't be speaking about the two films the same, but they're not attempting the same thing.
Apples
Right.
and
So
oranges, yeah.
yeah. So for me, any film you do it with conviction. Are you attempting a larger than life commercial caper? Then you do it, that way. Are you attempting a very real, gritty, dark film? Then you do it that way. As an actor, what excites me is that there are filmmakers who find me relevant in either of these spaces. I hope that always remains the case. I hope there is always a Lucifer and there is always an Ayappanam Koshi. That's what I hope for. Yeah.
If I were to tell you like this journey, to name, let's say, 5 films for various reasons that you find very, very important films in your career, pit stops along the way, what would those 5 films be?
Well, my first film, obviously, for obvious reasons, I mean,
Sentimentally.
not just for that, because I was never somebody who grew up thinking that I'm going to be an actor.
Okay.
I was more academically inclined. A lot of the people in my family thought I would make it into civil services. Thank God I did not. Yeah, I mean, I was more inclined that way. I was very bookish growing up. So my first film is the film that picked me up from somewhere else and put me in front of a camera. Then there is another really important film in my career called Vellithira, which was directed by Bhadran sir and produced by Mr. Mohan of Goodnight Films. Why it is important is, it's a very personal story. So I was going through that phase where, like I told you, I just couldn't relate to any of the work I was doing, right? I mean, I was not just the content, even the way films were being made. It was just not, I thought, man, I'm really not enjoying this. I just need to pack up and leave, go back to uni, finish my studies. And I was in that phase. So this film released, this Vellithira released, and it was a very hyped film for various reasons. And I was staying, on the day of the release, I was staying in this hotel called Abad Plaza in Cochin. And that hotel shares a compound wall with one of the bigger theaters in Cochin called Kavita Theater. So I don't know if Jairaj sir remembers this, but director Jairaj sir walked into my room the day the film released, and my room had blinds. So he had just seen the film. So he came to me and said, "Do you realize what has happened today?" I said, "No, sir." I know he got up and he opened the blinds and he called me and said, "Look down." And I saw. So I saw that, the theater was jam-packed and there was a queue from, if you know Kavita Theater, you will know. There was a queue from the doors of Kavita Theater all the way to MG Road in Cochin. And I was like, what? Of course, I mean, they were not there to see me. They were there to see Bhadran sir film. But I was just, it was a moment for me, it was a moment for me to telling me that this is the kind of influence you can have with this medium, with this craft, the craft that you have. That was a very, very important film for me. Vargam is the first film that I think, involved more than just as an actor. It was a film where I knew, the director and me. So the Vargam was directed by Mr. Padma Kumar, who was an assistant director in my first film. So we sort of grew up together, right? And we had done a film together before that. So Vargam was one of those films where, we made sure that we will make it the way we want to make it. We will make sure we didn't have, it might not have like budgets and scale and all that, but we will make sure we make it the way we make it. And I realized how much I enjoy that process. I really had fun doing it, like, believing in that and believing in the way it is being made. Vargam for sure. Lucifer, again, for obvious reasons. Then a very important film for me, Ayappanam Koshi. I mean, like, it's just for sad reasons, actually. I mean, it's a great film, mind blowing film, and lovely script and iconic characters and all that. But I just thought that that would be the beginning of so many things, not for me, but for Sachi.
Sachy, yeah.
Just then this happened, and so yeah, these maybe these are the five films that I would say. There are many more. There are many more as an actor that I'm so proud of, and they are all so close to me. Ayalum Nyanam Tamil, Mumbai Police, Memories, Kude. These are all films that are very close to me. But I didn't pick films that I find special as an actor. I picked films that are special to me for reasons other than just they
Right,
are great
right,
films. Yeah.
right. Now, today, when we talk of Lijo George Pellisheri or Amal Neerad, like we talk of them as, oh, wow, these new gen directors. But then Prithviraj discovered them, or rather, Prithviraj worked with them long before they were the Lijo of today or the Amal Neerad of today. I'm talking about films like Anwar and Double Barrel, of course, which is seriously one of the strangest films I've seen. I'm like, I'm still not sure what my
It's
reaction to that film is. So,
it's
so
still one of the go-to films for Lijo and me actually in some evenings during some evenings. Lijo has a screen in his house, and when I go there, he's like, "Okay, let's watch a bit of Double Barrel." So,
now you're working with Tanu Balak in Cold Case. Again, a brand new filmmaker. No, I mean, not much to kind of go on in terms of thing. Now, what I want to ask is, do you have, some actors have this. They have this ESP-like, sense. I mean, not literally ESP, but, they have a good sense of who's likely to kind of, do something interesting or nice or whatever it is. Do you think you have it?
no,
Okay.
because I've gone spectacularly wrong in the past, so I can't claim to have that. I don't think any actor really has that because we've all gone wrong and we've all been
So
proven
you're saying that the
gloriously.
actors who've done it are just fluke?
Trusting a filmmaker with absolutely no background, it is fluke. Mohanlal, Lucifer is a fluke for Mohanlal. He had absolutely no clue that I was capable of, pulling that off. Yeah, I narrated the film. I told him this is how I'll visualize it, blah and blah and blah and blah. But the fact that he trusted me with such a giant film is, I think, just a huge leap of faith. Which, yeah, thanks to God, thankfully, it paid off. So I have trusted new filmmakers. I mean, I think amongst my contemporaries, I might be the one who's done most number of films, new directors. I have trusted new filmmakers many times in the past. I've been proven gloriously right. I've had smash hits with new directors, and I've gone spectacularly wrong too. So there really isn't a foolproof method where you meet someone and you have this flow chart where you tick off things and you realize, okay, he or she is good. That doesn't happen. But yeah, I mean, primarily the yes or no starts from what's on paper, and
Right.
that should always be the case regardless of you looking at it as an actor, a producer, or a director. I think what's on paper will decide whether you take that first step or not. From there on, you try your best to make sure that all the visions are aligned. You try your best to make sure that all of you are aware of what kind of film are you making. Well, sometimes you are right, sometimes you go wrong. But yeah, I would like to believe we went right for Cold Case. I guess people will discover on the 30th. So
So you spoke of new gen. You use the word now. A certain kind of movie. For example, I would say a Kude is a new gen film. I would say
mhm,
because Anjali's sensibilities are very much, what would come under what the Malayalam media has started calling new gen maybe about 10
agreed.
years ago, I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
Ayyappan Kosham also, it's a very new gen film in the way that term is used, because I feel it's a loose term, but you know what I
yeah,
mean when we say that
yeah. I do.
word,
Yeah.
right? Prithviraj, I feel that despite the fact that you've acted in quite a few of these films, your name doesn't come up quite that often when people refer to new gen films or like that kind of thing. Why do you think that is the case?
I think part of it might also be because of the fact that they associate me more with the previous generation, right?
Okay.
I mean, I hang out more with Shanu and Fahad and Dulquer and all these people. But when the actors of the industry are being listed out, I think my name figures more with Mr. Mammootty and Mr. Mohanlal. So that might be part of the reason. It also might be partly because I've not featured in so many as a Fahad has, or as a Dulquer has in these so-called new age films. But one thing, like you mentioned, that I would like to draw the attention to is it is only the terminology that is new, right? So people start to think of Lijo Jose Pallisheri, I don't know, from Angamali Diaries, maybe, or maybe from Amen. But I would like to think the kickoff for the new kind of filmmaking or the new kind of sensibilities that happened in Malayalam, where we go back to making everything very real, was a film called City of God.
Yeah.
It
Traffic,
bombed.
that kind of.
Traffic happened after City of God.
Okay. Okay.
Uh, City of God bombed. I mean, it didn't work in the theaters, but I can vouch for it. You watch the film on a DVD now, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That was Lijo. That was Lijo.
Yeah.
He for us, like filmaholics back then, he took us by storm. It was like, who the hell is this guy, man? And it was like really unbelievable the way he conceived that film. I'm so proud of what he did for that film. Also, because that was the first film I actually committed to directing. And yeah, it didn't happen because then that time Mani Ratnam sir called me to act in Ravan. So eventually Lijo ended up directing the film, and he made a film miles ahead of what I had in my mind, but it didn't work. And you go a little bit more back. KG George was unbelievably new gen. Like he used to come up with stuff that used to blow your mind back then.
Right.
But nobody had coined this term, new gen. When I did Vargam, as long as cop films in Malayalam go, I would like to believe that was very new gen. This that kind of a cop was very new in Malayalam back then. But nobody called it a new gen film.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's part that, part this, and part the fact that I have not yet figured in like a Dileesh Potan film or who's a very popular new gen maker. Yeah, these yeah, like I would love to do one of these small, real rooted films with Dileesh and Sham. And I don't know what is it with me and these huge films. Dileesh and Sham will come home and narrate a film to me and say, "This, we want to make this big dream project." And I'm like, "Why are you not guys pitching a Joji to me?" So they've come and narrated something which is like a big film, So yeah, let's see. It'll eventually happen.
But maybe that's also because you're a star in a sense that maybe some of the newer age filmmakers are not. You know what I'm saying? It's not that Fahad is not a star, but
Yeah.
you're a more traditional star, in the sense that a star who came up through theaters and the hardcore people, like you said, people standing outside Kavita Theatre and lining up, and that the way stars are traditionally molded, as opposed to being seen on OTT and becoming famous, that kind of a thing. So I think maybe your image is also a little larger than life, perhaps. I don't know, because maybe that's something to consider. So
I have tried my best to make sure that my image as an actor does not remain constant or consistent. I would like to believe.
Kude is a great example. Kude is a great example of that.
Yeah. I mean, even I would like to believe, even going back to something like Mumbai Police. I think that was what I was hoping by doing films like those is create a sense of unpredictability about me. Right. I would like to believe that even in Malayalam right now, of all the actors, I guess if you go out and ask people, what do you think Prithviraj will do next, you might get very, very different answers from different people. So I think that I enjoy that. I enjoy the fact that even in trade circles, when I announce a film, they're like, hang on, hang on before you jump. We can't be sure what this guy is going to do. I like that. I like the fact that I could do anything, and people can say, yeah, Prithviraj, he might just suddenly go on this wild trip and do something completely out of the thing, which is great. But you're right, because I think, like I said, for the newer filmmakers, for the younger guys, they tend to see me with Mr. Mammootty and Mr. Mohanlal, so they think I'm not that accessible. They think, oh man, to get to him poses a much bigger challenge than to get to say somebody like a Nivin or a Fahad who's like today. And although, like you said, we're all the same age group, and I think I must be like one of the very, very few actors who do not have a manager. I mean, I still listen to the scripts myself. I still read scripts myself. I still manage my dates myself. So I don't know why I'm not accessible, or why people think I'm not accessible, but I've heard that. You're right.
What kind of film is Aadu Jeevitham? I asked specifically because it is based on a very, very famous novel by a very, very illustrious novelist, Benjamin, who's gone to win some millions of awards, and he's one of the most respected novelists. So how would you describe that film?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to go and term out all the cliches, like it is huge, it is big canvas, huge budgets and all that, which is okay, those are not the things that makes a film a worthy watch. For me, what is really impressive about the way Blessy has conceived Aadu Jeevitham is that when you read the book and you think of an adaptation in the form of a feature film, you might think that this is going to be a very, arty, parallel kind of cinema, which is not what Aadu Jeevitham is. The way Blessy has conceived it, it's an event film. Like I keep saying, it's a bit like Life of Pi. Like it's just the narrative goes from one event to the other, and it's very non-linear in its pattern. So I think it's a very, very engrossing mainstream cinema, which actually says something so deep rooted, so philosophical, and the way it's been shot, we've been very, very keen on taking a zero compromise approach to whatever we have shot so far, and whatever we have shot so far, we are all really happy about, and just fantastic work from Rahman sir, and we've got this huge international crew working on it,
Right.
and we hope to tie up with an international studio for an international release for the film. Let's see. I hope Blessy's vision comes to fruition, because when I so I said yes to Aadajeevitham on the sets of Pokiri Raja in 2008. Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah. So the journey has been pretty long.
It's also been a very tough journey this time, because when you were shooting, the whole, the Jordan thing happened, and, you were stuck and all that. And these kind of things sometimes, some people just are very zen about it. Some people are radically transformed by such things. How did it turn out with you?
In terms of what happened in Jordan, it really, wasn't, I really can't be romanticizing it like some of the media here did. Yes, we were in Wadiram. We were in a really nicely set up desert camp, we were playing cricket every day. We had great food, and we were all having fun. What was frustrating was that we couldn't shoot.
Sure.
Our shooting permission got cancelled and we couldn't shoot. And that was frustrating, because we went there to get this done. And it was a little tough for me alone personally, because I was going through this crash diet. I had lost like 31 kilos and all that. But eventually we managed to shoot some portions, not all of what we wanted to, some portions. And only problem was that we didn't know when we could return.
Right.
Our producer was taking care of us really, really well. Hats off to him. But only thing is, we didn't know it. It was not like we knew, okay, like 30 days from now you'll have a flight, or 45 days from now you'll have a flight. It was just indefinite. So that was the only thing. Other than that, there was nothing to be worried about. Or in fact, we were in Akava province, where back then there were no COVID cases. So even we were much better off with regards to the pandemic as opposed to some other parts of the world. But I think the whole situation of the pandemic, I think it has actually ended up being like an opportunity for a lot of filmmakers and for actors, because because of this sudden explosion in the revenue streams, especially of Malayalam cinema, thanks to digital and overseas and all that, we were all slowly migrating towards, okay, big canvas films, bigger films. Let's try and make this let's release in 100 territories. And then this pandemic happened, and because of the fact that these giant projects are no longer going to be possible, at least for a while, we got back to thinking, hang on, what can we do, compact? What can we do in a controlled environment? So what that does is that brings your writing back to the roots,
Right.
Which I think served as a timely reminder to us that what are we actually good at? So
now you mentioned that it wasn't like you were burning to become an actor, right? It's just like,
no.
Were you burning to become a director? Like, how did Lucifer just happen?
So like I said, right, I mean, for me, the point in my career where I started enjoying being an actor is the point in my career where I started enjoying the process of making the film.
Right.
Because till then, I was on sets where I really didn't relate to the way things were being done. I've done great films with absolutely not being able to relate the way it was being done, but I was not enjoying them. Yeah, the film would release and it would be a success and I'll be happy about it. But then the thought of going back to another set and repeating that process was not exciting for me. There was a point in my career where I started enjoying that process, which is when I started enjoying being an actor, because I looked forward to going to a set. I look forward to when the director said pack up today, I was like, right, tomorrow let's come back and smash this. So my journey as a director, I think, started from that point, because I started enjoying the whole process. I think I would be one of the very few actors who, I like going for recce's. If I have the time, I like going for the mixing of the film. I will go and sit when the re-recording is happening. For me, it is all that. For me, me being part of a film as an actor is also all that. So unlike what it might seem to be, for me, directing a film is not something that is very diametrically opposite to acting in it.
Yeah, sure.
I'm still being part of the whole process, where the decision making is going to be mine now. and the shot making is going to be mine now. So yeah, I mean, I enjoy making films, but it is not something I'm going to be doing on a regular basis because it is hard work. Trust me, actors have it easy. I can now say this because I'm also a director. It is a lot of hard work, and plus, I still think I enjoy acting more than making a film.
You just
I
announced
wouldn't.
Bro Daddy.
Yeah, I did. So how Bro Daddy happened was I was supposed to do my next directorial next this year, which was a sequel to Lucifer,
Right.
which was again a really a big film, a large canvas, giant film given the circumstances. I just thought that this thought has been with me for a while that we are missing happy films.
Yeah.
I don't know, and Malayalam was known for this. We were known for this beautiful writing from Siddiq Lal, Rafi McCartan, Srinivasan sir, all these people. And I said, where did the happy films go? So this thought has been with me for a while when out of the blue, these two young writers, told me they would like to read a script out. And it had no producer attached. It has no actor attached. It had no director attached. In fact, they did not even come and narrate to me for me to act in it. All that they wanted was, can you, tell us how we can find a way to this being a project? So I listened to the script and I immediately said, I'm buying it. Yeah. So I bought the script and I said, I'm producing it. Then I went for a break with my wife, and this thought of, hang on, maybe I should direct this film started growing in me. Why? Because of two reasons. One, I knew that Empuran is not going to happen, very soon because of the circumstances. Two, I thought this is going to be a really good shake-up for me as a filmmaker. This is so opposite to what I would be thinking in terms of design and execution for a film like Empuran. I thought it is good before I go there that, I get shaken up as a filmmaker. And even as an actor, I think it is going to be so refreshing to be in something very light-hearted and something that puts a smile on your face, something where the film is not telling you to take anything back home and think, it is just have fun. It is just fun, frolic, and laughter. So all this put together, I thought, okay, I just casually narrated the thing to Mr. Mohanlal. And I hope the audience will laugh as much as he did when he was listening to the story. And he said, right, we are doing this. And then it just suddenly, and it's a film that I think I can execute with all these regulations and restrictions in place. That's how that project came to be.
Like you and Mohanlal are bros now. It's like when I was just wondering, you direct him in your directorial debut, and then in his directorial debut, which is Burroughs, you're there. What was it like being directed by a person that you directed in your directorial debut? This sounds like a bit of a puzzle, but you get the question, right?
So. I know it all sounds like very complicated and all that, but the fact is that once you're on sets, right? I mean, it's all very, very, very clear and it's all very simple. I guess it also stems from the fact that he is unimaginably experienced. I have a body of work behind me. So I know once you're on set, he's the director and I'm the actor, and the equation is very, very, very clear. There is no ambiguity there. And even with Mohanlal as an actor, you're right. I mean, he's like this elder brother figure to me. We live in the same building and, we hang out whenever he's in Cochin. But he's got this thing, man. And like, he will come and crack a joke with you, and he calls me Mone, which means son, It's like he'll crack a joke. And then when the cameraman is finished lighting up and the assistant will come and say, it's a shot ready. And I'll walk towards the monitor with a microphone in my hand, and he'll walk towards the front of the camera. As soon as he reaches there, he switches to sir. He's like, sir, what do I do? Like, he's like that. And it is not even a put on. It comes from almost a subconscious level. So on the set, it is all very clear. There is no ambiguity there.
Right. When Lucifer became such a blockbuster, Prithviraj, I mean, obviously, I wanted to know how you felt. I mean, obviously, not the everybody, yeah, of course, happiness and all that kind of stuff would have happened. But was there something that inside you that said, yes, I needed this. I needed to prove that I could do this. Was there something like that inside you?
See, the thing is, I know in one way there was a lot of pressure on me as his first time director, right? I mean, I knew the easy way. I'm not looking down on those kind of films. I'm a huge admirer and I'm a fan of those kind of films. But the easy way for me to direct a film would have been to do like this very real, rooted film, very indulgent film, where if the film does not work, I can always fall back on the excuse saying, okay, I just did it because I wanted to make a film. I was not bothered about this film working in the theaters. That would have been easy. But I knew what I was getting into when I took this on, right? Absolutely no excuses. I'm doing a mainstream, massy commercial film with one of India's biggest superstars, with a huge budget, with Malayalam's biggest production company. If the film did not work, I had no excuses, That pressure was there on me. But there was also the pressure that if that was the end of my directorial career, it's not like that's a dead end. Okay, I'm not going to direct anymore. It's fine, So both angles worked, but it was very gratifying. It was very gratifying because I believe I took that was a very risky thing to do, to this giant film where there's so much organic hype around it, and I was trying to play it down, but everything just snowballed into this huge event in our industry, and it worked. It worked, and I'm so proud of the fact that not only did it turn out to be a commercially successful film, it just opened so many avenues for the industry. This whole Malayalam cinema revenue streams, like suddenly, opening up and going through the roof, started with Lucifer. And in fact, started with the Amazon Lucifer deal. That to me is a landmark moment in Malayalam cinema industry. So I'm proud that that film paved the way for it. Yeah.
Now you did a whole bunch of Tamil films at one point, but I think the last one you did was Kavya Talavan, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And we haven't seen you in Tamil cinema after that. Is it that Malayalam has been keeping you busy? By the way, let me tell you another film of yours that I really like and which I think was underappreciated, Ayya. That was a very, very interesting film, and I thought you were you had a very interesting role in that, and
even Sachin, the filmmaker, very, very underrated filmmaker, if you ask me. It's just so many beautiful thoughts that guy has.
So why don't we see you much in other languages that much anymore? Is it because Malayalam is keeping you busy all the time, or is it because Lucifer swallowed up all your time, or?
It's not that. I mean, it is. I would love as an actor to be able to travel and have a presence in different languages and all that. But Malayalam cinema is going through such a great phase right now that it's not that I'm starved for content here. In fact, there are about 10 scripts that I love, of which I know I'm going to be able to do only 2, right? And I'm going to be jealous of the actors who will eventually get to do the other 8. But what do I do? I mean, so it is and it is not that you're looking for gratification as an actor now, because I know that if I do a Malayalam cinema and make it a great film, my work is going to be seen everywhere. So it will need content that makes me want to go there and do that for me to decide that, okay, I'm going to do this Tamil film or I'm going to do this Hindi film. That such kind of content is not found its way to me till very recently. So I am actually doing a major part in a very big pan-Indian film. Since the makers have not officially announced it, I'll wait for them to go ahead and announce it.
Okay. Do you have this internal, I don't know what you call it, weighing scale, whatever, like this barometer that says that where you're able to see yourself on screen and say, this has been my best performance? And if so, which film would that be in?
I tend to think that, actors judge themselves very partially, to be frank. We are all narcissists, we think we are mind-blowing. I'm sure...
I'm going to interrupt you just for a second there, because many actors that I've spoken with say they hate seeing themselves on screen because they only see the mistakes.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. We spot the mistakes first. When I see a performance of mine, I spot the mistakes first. But any actor who tells you they hate themselves on screen is lying. Okay, I mean, inside info. So we don't. We don't. I still see myself on screen and I find myself to be clumsy. I'm like, oh, okay, like I know people say good looking, and I'm like, this angle is really bad on me. So all that happens, but it is not that I hate watching myself on screen. I do not. We'll be very partial judging ourselves. But again, there are performances that are special to you because of how much so every character touches you, right? I mean, even something very candy floss, like let's say Pokri Raja, that you work on that film for 40 days, you start behaving a bit like that guy. It happens to every actor. There are some films that touch you at a point that is slightly deeper than comfortable. Okay, Kude is one. Kude is one where, and full credit to Anjali, right? Anjali has got this amazing skill to really delve into the real life persona of an actor, and she's just a wonderful writer, director. And you need a lot of patience to work with Anjali, which I have in very short supply. So full credit to her. Then there's this film called Ayalum Nyanam Tamil, which sort of there are many moments in the film that when the director said cut, I'm like, oh man, that felt too close for comfort. So there are characters like that. So it's not like I can pick. I don't know. I must have done like 110 films, so it becomes hard now to start
Yeah,
picking.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, I was wondering because see, every actor has one face to work with, right?
yeah,
And they have to mold that one face to try and embody the character that you're playing. Now,
yeah.
you have a face that is it's a good looking face. It's also a face that's certain it's commanding. There's a certain I loved you in Ravanan, for instance, because I thought
Oh, thank you.
you were you brought out in a very subtle way the cruelty inherent in the character. Not necessarily when you were doing the absolute cruel things,
Yeah,
like trying to get information, but even with the wife earlier when
yeah.
you call her Natya Peroli, there's a sting in your voice. That's like it's not like I'm complimenting you. I'm just like kind of just this. It's not a he's not a nice man, and
No,
I think that kind of sometimes that comes through well. But to see a performance like Kude is astonishing because your face it's almost like a loser like character, it's almost like I it's a character that Prithviraj has to work a little to kind of get at, because he has to also, along with the performance, he also has to kind of like work at the way he looks, or maybe uses his eyes, or I don't know how you do it, but you know what I'm trying to say.
I'm going to sound very smug and cliched as an actor here, but the fact of the matter is that getting into Joshua is less work for me than getting into someone like like a tough cop. That takes work
Are you
because
sure? Okay.
you should ask my wife. In fact, my wife called Anjali and told her this, that I've never seen so much of Prithvi in one of his performances as I've seen in Kode.
Oh God.
These are my wife's exact words, and she's called Anjali and told her this. Yeah, so I understand people like that more, because I think uh, like I know I have I'm a very vulnerable guy. I'm a very emotional guy. I walk away from situations that make me vulnerable because I don't want people seeing me vulnerable. Very few people have seen me crying in life, because if there is a situation, I turn back and I walk away. That is Joshua. That is Joshua. I'm not very in real life. I'm not very confrontational with my emotions. So like a Ravan, or a we call it the Anthony Moses A in Mumbai Police. All that takes work for me. A Kude, I read the script and I immediately understand him. I understand the guy. It takes less work for me. I know I'm making it sound like a character that you thought was a lot of work for me is actually, no, that is the truth of it.
Right.
But again, it has also got a lot to do with the screen image of an actor,
Right.
right?
That's what
So,
I'm talking about. Yeah.
yeah. So I know what brought me my popularity. So it is that people like watching, of me. They like seeing me in these macho roles. They like seeing me doing action. One of the biggest complaints I have from people who love watching my mainstream films is, why aren't there any more action films? Do action films, do action films. To me, it's all the same. I mean, I'm acting in an action film, I'm acting in Kode also, right? So to me, it's all, if tomorrow a great script for an action film comes, if a John Wick finds its way to me, I'd love it. I would love to do it. But yeah, so I just think it is a perception. It is a perception of what people think Prithviraj is based on the characters I've played.
And it's amazing that this happened, because I'm now to my last question, and I'm going to use a dictionary word, like my followers call me,
Oops. Okay.
serendipity.
Yeah.
Serendipity, because you talked about vulnerability, and it's amazing that this was where my next question was headed. Because Prithviraj, frankly, last year, one of the things that made me really very emotional and made me cry very, very much was your short note to Sachy that you
Yeah.
put out on Instagram, because it had a depth of feeling that I rarely see. I mean, you hear cliches when people are, gone. It was like like, oh, he was good, he's this, he's that. It's just like, and you can't expect everybody to express, their feelings so openly. But this was so genuine and so thing that it really felt like what it must be to lose like a creative spouse, so to speak,
Yeah.
it was almost like that. So if you don't mind, and if it's not going to be an issue, what was the special something that you shared with Sachi? What was this special bond that kind of, because I know you did Driving License, which he wrote, I mean, among the recent films, and
Yeah.
then Ayappan Koshiyam, which he directed. And those two became two of your most applauded performances and films. What is the special bond that you shared?
So when Sachi left, right? I mean, Sachi left, I really did not want to put out a social media post. I really did not. And I just, when everybody from the industry, because I was the hospital, I mean, I was there waiting and all that. I knew I was one of the first people who knew that we were removing him from the ventilator. So everybody, I know a lot of people are calling me and asking what happened. Is he, what is it? What is the situation? So just so that they would stop calling, the first post I put was, he's gone. That's it. I put out a one-word post saying he's gone because I wanted people to stop calling me. Then I said, no, I don't want to really write a note to him. I didn't want to. Then I figured, like, everybody is calling me for some, I have friends from media whose calls I cannot not take. And they're like, can we have a voice bite? So I decided, listen, I'm going to write something. That is what all that I have to say. So I meant to write a very, no nonsense, non-emotional post as like a statement. But I started typing it on my phone, and this is what happened. And I just posted it. So with Sachy, it's like contrary to what people think, right? It is not that we were doing 2 films every year. We were not constantly doing films. We were not people who met each other every weekend. But he was just somebody who, who I trusted. And what was even more special was the feeling of him trusting me, right? I can vouch for the fact that every one of Sachy's films that you've seen, I was his first choice. Like the story he would have first told me. And then maybe, not just because I didn't have dates or something, then maybe the project happened some other way. So it was this trust that, like, yeah, I I think of something, it is Prithvi will feature in that, and my trust in him too. But the fact is, it is not about cinema. I mean, Sachy was a writing superstar. He could make films without me, of course. And I could make films without him. I had enough movies to do without him. But it was just that when I was with him, it was very, it was very genuine. I don't know how to put it into words. Those things don't happen. Like, I mean, I'm now 2 decades into this industry. Those kinds of relationships do not happen. I know that Sachy he would have made such great films and have written such wonderful screenplays for all of India to watch, enjoy, and applaud. But it is not that. It is a fact that, that the knowledge of him being there is no longer there. That hurts. That is what is really haunting me. Yeah.
Right. And I think whatever instinct led you to stop typing out that unemotional post and write this instead was very cathartic to many of us, because like a lot of it just puts in words something that sometimes you struggle to kind of put out in words. And so thank you for that, and also all the best for Cold Case, which we look forward to watching. And thank you so much for answering these questions. It was
thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
Nice talking to you too. Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye.